Is that a breakup?
I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello.
Hey, what's happening? How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Not too bad. You are live on the lockdown edition of the Feeling Station, so please do not say your name.
Awesome.
and I'm going to try and do exactly the same and not say your name out here. So wish me luck.
That's going to be interesting. Yeah, let's go for it.
Now, what normally happens is I would have some names that I pick if we were in a studio. Which reminds me, we were so close to a studio edition. Literally, I think it was 3 days before we sat down in the studio and did your episode. And then Boris Johnson decided, no, we're going to lock down the UK.
Yes, and then we had to just move everything. That was bad.
What an absolute bomber.
That was bad. Yeah.
And I think what makes it worse for me is to think about how we've been talking about doing this for a couple of months before.
For a while now, yeah.
And then when the opportunity presented itself,
only chance. I know.
Bang, it's gone just like that.
Only chance.
But anyway, this is there's a big thank you, for at least making time for us to have this chat about your breakup experience.
Of course.
As you know, the Feeling Station is a podcast that touches on breakup stories that people would like to talk about. And the important thing is to have a lesson that people learn from your experience. Some of the experiences we've had have been entertaining, but what's really, really important is the meaning behind the stuff that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So what's important for me to establish from the onset is how comfortable are you talking about your breakup situation?
I've got to tell you, it's one of those weird ones, difficult, but also I think one has got to be authentic in order to learn the lessons and in order to help other people learn the lessons as well. So comfortable, let's go for it.
So why do you say that this is one of those difficult ones for you?
I think because it's one that makes me reflect, one I'm not proud of. And then I've had to reflect on my behavior and things that I did.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not there anymore, but it's something that when I did it and I think, oh my goodness, why did I even do that to someone else? And just think that was horrible of me.
Ooh, so this is a breakup in which you did the wrong.
Yep, this is one of those where I have to own up to my mistakes.
We don't have very many of those, but this is going to be really interesting. Thank you for making this an interesting one before it's even got anywhere.
I hope so.
So what I normally do is pick out some names, okay? So I should have a name for you, but it's difficult when I'm doing it over the phone. I don't have the experience of seeing you react to the name. So I'm going to ask you to pick a name for the guy that you were involved with. What are you going to call him?
Oh, I'm gonna call him Tichaona.
Tichaona.
I'll tell you why.
Okay. Help me understand how you ended up on that name, and then for the audience that doesn't understand Shauna, could you then explain what Tichaona means?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna ask you to explain what Tichaona means, but because I'll tell you my reasoning for picking the name. It's only because it's similar to what the guy did for a living. And he was a teacher. So I was thinking what's the coolest name I could pick.
That is hilarious. So you just called him Teacher Warner.
Yes, I thought if I say teach, teach makes me remember instead of saying his name. So,
that is brilliant. Okay, so for those who are not from Zimbabwe and those who don't speak Shona, I guess this is going to be a very literal translation of the name. Tichaona means we shall see.
We shall see.
Yeah, that is the literal translation. It probably has a deeper meaning that I haven't been able to tap into. And I'm guessing that whoever listens to this, when they decide to comment on our social media platforms, they'll give us a deeper understanding of what Tichaona actually is. All right. So, where does your story with Tichaona begin? Where did you guys meet?
So, I could call him Teach. So, Teach and I met. We grew up together. We were friends, and from about the age of 11, 12, Obviously, he was older than me. He was like 5 years older than me.
Okay.
So when we grew up together, he was just like that older, friendly guy from church and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually we became really close and became best friends.
Okay.
And then so that's kind of where we started off, and we were really close. You know, we're cool. He was dating other girls, whilst I was dating other guys. It was never ever a thing that would end up together. Never a thought in my mind.
So did you guys ever tell each other stories about each one of your guys' partners? Would you tell them about it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was like one of those, you know, when you were like, I like that other guy, man, and then he helped, you know, he'd help out and kind of smooth the way for me.
Okay.
Or other way around, where he'd like, I fancied the other chick, and I'd be like, yeah, and I'd be like, I don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I liked him, but because then it was just like, you know, that best friend that you have, that's a guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was like that. It was like, and the thing is, like a group of us, and we were all just so cool with each other that none of us ever thought, like never saw Teach and I ever getting together.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So then what happened? How did you guys then catch these feelings? Who caught feelings first, you or him?
Him.
Oh, he caught feelings, yeah?
I think it was him.
Okay.
Because when we got together, the reason why I then call him Teach as well is because I was studying in a college where he was teaching then.
Okay.
So this is years later. So now he was like my teacher. And so during the time we were together, obviously when it was one of those unspoken things where you couldn't have a student and a teacher get together.
Of course, yeah.
It was awkward. So I think when the whole thing started, I never paid attention to it until him and I would have little walks together.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd have walks with other people, but suddenly the two of us would be by the side, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing, you know, the bro hug ends up turning into a gentle hug.
Yes.
And then you start thinking, oh, this is smoother than the normal hug, you know?
Yeah.
And then I remember the one thing that happened was he held my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And every other time it would mean nothing. But that day, when he held my hand, it was different. It was different. And we didn't need to communicate to say, hey, I think I have something for you or some sort of feelings. I think just holding hands just kind of gradually built up things.
I'm going to ask you a question because holding a hand is holding a hand. A hand is a hand. Okay.
It's different.
But then the feeling only changes if the emotion within yourself is already different. You know, then that hand holding things feels different. So at this point, were you already feeling stuff for him without admitting it to yourself, which was then confirmed by that hand holding session?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was starting to notice him more because I found him really good at teaching, but he was also really good at bringing out the best in other people.
And
so
was he particularly good at bringing out the best out of you in particular?
Of course. Like he spoke so well into my life, and he would find things that I was strong at, and he would just like focus on that and pull on that. And the things I wasn't, he would, you know, put himself out in a place where he could help.
Yeah.
But he never, still in that, he wasn't crossing weird boundaries. But it was just like, he was just there. And when I just also needed a friend outside the school, he was just always there. So I think I started to notice that when he held my hand, the first time he held my hand and we walked, it was a little play. I think, okay, you know what? There was a little play on the hands.
I like how the detail is starting to come out of this. Initially, it was just holding hands, but now there's a bit of play, huh?
There's like, yeah, it was like, you know, you hold hands and it moves from just holding hands, but to, what's the word? What would you use when you're caressing each other? Or but it's gentle.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is no longer a friendship holding hand situation. This is where things for me was like, oh, this is okay. Where's this going?
Did you at any point feel like this is inappropriate because this is my teacher?
No, that's the thing. He became my teacher after he'd been my best friend.
Okay.
So the teacher bit was just there because I need to respect that he's the teacher and I'm the student.
Yeah.
But the best friend overshadowed a lot of the things.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
So it didn't ever feel inappropriate. In fact, it was exciting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I got excited about it. So, I mean, from the whole hand-holding to us just somehow always moving away from everybody, because we always were bigger groups, so we always spent time together, and suddenly him and I were spending time just alone.
Mm-hmm.
And to a point where another guy noticed, and he was the best friend to both still, and he was like, something is not right here.
Mm-hmm.
And when he pointed out and said, look, I think you're flirting with Teach. I was like, no, not really. And I knew I was flirting with him. And then apparently he had gone to Teach and said the same thing. So Teach then called me and then said, look, we've got to talk about this now.
Yeah.
So at that point, he just simply said, look, I really like you and I'm feeling for you. And I said the same thing. I was like, I like you as well, and I want this. But Teach then said, I'll respect you because I'm not going to start a relationship with you until you finish school. I wasn't far off from graduating.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, it's only 2 months down the line. And I think that made me really like him even more.
Yeah, because you're thinking this guy is very respectful of me. He's considerate. He's thinking about me and my school.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to invest in you. So I was like, okay. So yeah, I thought, okay, we'll wait the 2 months. But then in between the 2 months, we were still seeing each other. We didn't do anything else.
Mm-hmm. Apart from holding hands?
I'm lying. No.
Yes. Go deeper. What happened?
No, I mean, we went as far as just kissing.
Okay.
We didn't cross any other boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I think the kissing was already crossing a boundary in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that was going to happen anyway. 2 months is a long time.
Especially when you have a lot of stuff, bubbling inside you. You've got all this, affection and emotion and excitement about somebody. Yeah. That's almost a natural progression of things.
Yeah, and I was seeing him every day.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, someone else liked him.
Oh.
So that to me was like, I don't know, competition or some sort of, this is so bad, but some sort of like excitement. It was almost like a prize to get.
Okay, to say I'm the winning chick here.
Yeah. So I was like on top of the world because I thought, he's not looking at you, he's looking at me.
How did you know that there was somebody else who liked him?
Because the other girl told me.
What? What?
Yeah, so
did she tell you in confidence, or she did it to knock your confidence so that you don't bother with him?
It was in confidence. This was more like, I think I have a crush on Teach, and I was like, what?
Oh,
and
dear.
I'm thinking, I was like, why would you tell me that? And it's like, obviously you're the best friend, so you can hook me up. And I was like, I don't know, because I don't know if he likes it, but I was trying to avoid pushing her to go for it and also avoid coming looking like I'm saying no. So it was more about, I don't know if he's into that at the moment. And she was like, try and find out. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I know exactly. But do you know what I did?
Mm-hmm.
I told Teach.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, look, there's a situation, that girl likes you, what are we going to do? And he was just like, we just need to explain to her that that's not what it is. And he was a little bit upset because he's like, why wouldn't you at that moment also just say, I also like him? And that could have changed things a bit.
Yeah.
But no, I just thought that would just cause some issues. But Teach was like, doesn't matter. And then she was like, don't worry, I will now blank her out and make sure I don't give her any signal.
So whilst you're still talking about this element of signals, it's now important for me to establish what lesson you want people to learn from what you're going to talk about today, because already this is really, really interesting. I don't want us to miss the important lesson. What do you want people to learn from your story?
I think 2 lessons, really. Mm-hmm. Respect and honesty.
Okay.
Respect in the sense that, it's important to hold someone at high regard and respect them and remember that they're humans and they've got feelings.
Okay.
And then honesty, that, everyone deserves to know the truth. Sometimes the truth may hurt them, but I think for where I'm looking at that situation, I should have been honest. And that would have changed a lot of things. I should have just been honest. So I think relationship-wise, honesty is the best key, especially right at the beginning. Just be honest. Yeah.
So let's move this forward. So I'm guessing at some point you and Titch now decide to date, and this is after you finish your school.
Well, so not really. So what then happened is, so obviously remember the 2 months we are hyping each other and spend time together. And then what Titch said to me, his words were that the day of graduation, the moment you graduate and walk down, I'm coming to you and I'm going to officially ask you out.
Wow.
So I knew that this was happening and was going down on the day of graduation.
Yeah.
I was excited. And then suddenly the following week, I somehow just didn't like him that much.
Huh?
Yeah, so the feelings I have for him, I don't know what happened. Suddenly, he was holding my hand and I wasn't feeling anything anymore.
Okay, that's a bit strange because you guys had such good chemistry. All you needed to do was hold hands to feel them warm butterflies and stuff.
Yeah.
And literally overnight, that is gone.
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't know what happened within yourself?
I know what happened.
Okay. What happened?
It's so I got tangled up with with an ex-boyfriend.
Okay. I did not expect that, but I'm not entirely surprised because somebody who you've had chemistry with before versus somebody who you're building chemistry with, that the new guy never wins.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the hard bit was also like this ex was gonna be, I thought was gonna be the guy that I would marry. You know, when you're young and you're like, this is the one. I was that girl with almost everyone I dated. I was like, this is the one.
Right.
And this particular ex, I thought this is the one. And so what was then hard to see, at this point, everybody knows each other. And now Titch is asking about the ex because he's seeing the ex.
Hang on, so Titch knows the ex?
Yes. This is a very small circle.
It's tiny from the sound of things.
And so now Titch is just like, I'm seeing the ex hanging around. I'm like, the ex, you know how the ex doesn't want to give up and he's still coming. And then Titch is like, have you told the ex anything? I'm like, I've told him there might be somebody else, but I can't tell him the name because you and I are not allowed to get together right now.
Why weren't you allowed to? Why weren't you allowed to get together? Because you'd finished uni, you'd graduated.
Oh no, this is just before finishing. So the reason why we don't get this is before graduation. So already before graduation, I'm now feeling a little bit different, and the ex is coming to the picture.
Gotcha, makes sense.
And then and so Titch is just saying, hint something or tell him something. I'm like, we need to be careful, and I'm covering things up. But in the meantime, I'm actually getting together with the ex now. And we are working out to actually get together. Again, I think it seems like everything boiled down to after graduation. I don't know why. And then it just so happens that on the day of graduation, I now know that Titch is excited and he's going to come and ask me out. So graduation happens. I get my stuff. I run out of the school and I go home and I disappear.
Wow.
Because now I'm thinking if Titch does ask me out, either I'm going to have to be honest with him and say to him, I don't have feelings for you anymore. Within a space of 3-6 months. And suddenly it looks like, what was I doing this whole time?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I've promised the other one that I'm going to be his forever and ever.
Oh my God. I have to ask the question, why did you and the ex break up in the first place? In some way?
We broke up because I felt, I actually thought he was seeing someone else. And he wasn't. The truth was actually he wasn't. The girl I thought he was seeing, the girl adamantly came back and said, look, you've gotten this all wrong. We are not even like that. And what had happened was someone else had come and said to me, oh, I think this is what's happening with your ex. And when I approached my ex, he thought I was joking, so he just started laughing to a point that he didn't actually answer. And that one conversation we had was the one conversation I made up my mind. In the one conversation I said, that's it, I'm done. Okay. And I moved on.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think in doing that, I didn't deal with all the emotions and what I was actually feeling. Then that's when teacher comes in now.
Okay.
So when X comes back, X is like, this is a joke because you and I haven't actually spoken about anything. Like we haven't actually, and it wasn't even true. So now there's evidence that nothing was actually going on. And different people have proved that there's nothing. So now I'm like, so he didn't actually do anything. And things are good.
How did you feel when you found out that he did nothing and that you had jumped the gun?
I felt so stupid. I felt so stupid to the point that I actually couldn't even admit it. This is why honesty was a big deal for me, where it's the biggest lesson. I couldn't admit it to him that I made a mistake. So I kept on saying, well, fine, you never cheated on me, but on the day when I called you, you should have taken things seriously. And he was like, so he was the big one to come and say, fine, whatever, for everything, anything I've done, I'm sorry, but I couldn't actually apologize to him. And then I kind of petted it all down and I thought, he won't notice. Guys never notice.
I guess that explains why it was easy for you to get those feelings back so quick, because they never really went away. And Titch almost feels like you was a bit of a rebound whilst you were resolving your emotions from the previous one. Yeah.
I think literally that's what was that, because now teachers give me this whole attention, and when you get a guy that speaks so good into your life, a guy that's willing to do stuff for you, and like for me, the stuff wasn't about money. It was just about someone paying attention to me, someone saying you're great at this, and they like, oh, you'd be good, and it was really like he was really good. And then it didn't help because we were best friends, so he already knew me, and I knew him. So it was easier for him to climb the ladder as opposed to someone else who's fresh, doesn't know me, or, he knew which buttons to press and I knew which ones to press on him as well. So it worked fine. But this time around, it was like, we're now in a place where now he's left, I've run away, and he was looking for me for a whole week.
And when you say looking for you, you're saying what? He's calling you, he's texting you, is he coming to your house?
Yeah, so he was calling and texting. He came to my house one time. And by then, so my parents knew him. So he was the only other cool guy that could come into my house, and my mom wouldn't suspect a thing. Yeah. So he came over to my house. I wasn't there because I've gone out with X. And
oh boy.
It just was one thing after another, and then he took it to a step further, where eventually we spoke on the phone, and he was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I'm just so tired, and I was just catching up with friends, but yeah, we're gonna talk." So still, I couldn't tell him that I didn't have feelings for him.
Why was why was it so difficult for you to tell him?
I don't know. I just struggled with, I didn't know how to deal with telling him that it's different. I feel different, and the thought of hurting him. Yeah. So I struggled with the thought of hurting him, but I didn't realize what I was doing was already hurting him anyway. So I thought if I just disappear, he'll end up forgetting about me, and he didn't, and I just couldn't tell him. I'll be honest, I didn't even know why I couldn't tell him. there's all these, sometimes people say, oh, if you care about somebody, either you would just tell them, or it wasn't even like that. Like, I genuinely cared about him. He was my friend.
Yeah.
But I wasn't honest. I was not that honest girl then.
Yeah.
It was easier for me to, when you ghost somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Ghosting someone is easier.
Well, in this situation, it felt easier for you than being upfront and honest.
Yeah, it felt easier. It was a wrong choice, but it felt easier.
Okay.
But it also meant that I needed then to be dodgy the whole time, because I needed to make sure we don't bump into each other. Because remember, our circle of friends is similar. We were going to the same church. Everything. Gosh. So it meant that I had to give up a lot of things just so I don't see him.
I have to ask you this question. That's a lot of personal admin on your, on you. Was it worth all the trouble in hindsight? Was it worth you dodging and hiding and all that?
No. Certainly not worth the trouble. It was very childish and silly. At then I thought I was clever. I thought, I've got this, man. But that just was a waste of time. It cost me a lot, like you're saying, time-wise and admin. I had to calculate everything. And it was also calculating because I was still lying. Remember, I was lying to X.
Yeah.
So X never knew about me even hooking up with Teacher.
Yeah.
And so when X and I would go out into town, we would go to a very private place. Not because and X would think we're going to a private place because I like quiet places. Gosh. I like, but it was because I was avoiding the whole world knowing and then eventually going back.
Yeah.
It was a matter of time as well. I knew that somebody's going to know that me and X are getting back together, and then it was going to go around, and then suddenly Teach will then know, and then that would also break his heart.
So back to Teach. We've got to the point where he's asking questions, what's going on, and you haven't been honest. What then happened?
I kept on lying, and I never came out clean. So what then happened was Teach then got to find out that X is in the picture now.
How did he find out?
So Teach, because X told people, isn't it?
Okay. X told people that we are hooking up again. And blah, blah, blah. Okay.
We're hooking up again. I wasn't telling anyone because I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. But X was excited, so he decided to tell the world. So we all go to the same church, and then we get to church, and after church, X is like, I'm hearing stuff about you and Teach. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, I'm not going to talk to him. I was like, no, don't talk to him. Like, that would just start noise. And two, we're not like that kind of people. We like quietness. I like my privacy.
Okay. The classic line, I like my privacy.
Yeah, I like my privacy.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you don't post pictures on Facebook, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, privacy. And then so X is like, no, it's fine. We'll, okay, that's fine. He leaves it. But Teach now knows, and Teach was not letting it go. So Teach went and then approached X. When he approached X, and I remember walking into the church building, I was just about to go, and I saw them standing together.
Oh,
my body shook.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. And one of my other best friends, he came running, and then he held me, and then he pushed me out of the way, and then he quickly was like, you need to go and hide.
Because he could see what was going on.
He could see. He was like, I told you, and I warned you guys months ago about this whole thing. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? And he goes, right now, you need to move away from this place. At the same time, eventually, you need to tell them the truth.
Both of them.
And I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, I'll go and speak to them. So he went in and got involved. But apparently both of them were at it arguing that they were both certain and sure that I was with the other, with them. it was like, one was like, no, she's mine. No, she's mine. No, I spoke to her. This is have a look at the text messages.
Oh my gosh.
And evidence just comes out. At this point, I'm sitting somewhere, hiding, holding onto my phone, thinking, who's going to ring next? So Teach decides that he's not going to ring me. Teach decided he was never going to talk to me again. And that broke my heart, because I then realized, it hit me hard then, that I'd actually messed up. And I think what was harder was I just didn't have the words to go back to him, and I didn't know what to say to him.
Yeah.
And then X is coming, walking and then he comes and finds me, and X is excited. He's still just like, Teach things, whatever, fine. And X completely ignores the messages he saw.
Yeah.
On Teach's phone, and then he just says, we're together. And I'm like, yeah, we're together. And I still go with X. Not because now I'm now feeling bad about the whole situation. I'm now in a place where I'm thinking I shouldn't even be with any of them.
Yeah.
But I still cannot bring myself to tell the truth to anybody. And I just left it there. So now I'm openly dating X. Teach and I are not really meeting. And then what Teach had then done, Teach had went to approach one of the pastors in church.
Mm-hmm.
And he went and just spilled his heart out. And I think he needed that to then deal with things and get that counseling. What then happened was I was now leaving for the UK months down the line. Mm-hmm. And then the pastor called me and said, look, we need to speak before you go. You're leaving next week and you need to know.
Yeah.
I spoke to Teach, and Teach says, this is what happened. And exactly as he says, Teach never no word of a lie. Said exactly what happened. And I was like, oh. And then he's like, what did you do to him? Mm-hmm. And he's like, Teach is still heartbroken and he's struggling. And I think at this point now, I've lost my best friend, but I've also realized that I've caused so much hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm still struggling to apologize. So this is the thing, people are proud in different ways. Some people are proud with, ego, and I think for me, my pride was that humility. I couldn't show the side of being humble or being authentic.
Yeah. And
I didn't want to show a sign of weakness to a point that if it hurt him, as long as I remained strong, I was the winner. And yet now I'm like, this is all messed up.
Yeah.
So it just became a huge struggle. And I tried to gather my guts up to speak to Tish, but I didn't. And when I said goodbye, I couldn't say goodbye to him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I left. And then a couple of years down the line, Teach was like, hey, suddenly writes to me and says, look, I was hoping we could talk. So I'm like, you know what? I need to speak to him. And when we say hi, he then says, what happened? I just want to know what happened. And guess what?
What?
I never told him. I never told him the truth.
On.
And I still could never, ever, ever tell him the truth. And he just sat there via video and he was like, why are you lying to me? And he was like, funny enough, I still like you so much. I just want you to be honest with me. That's all I'm asking. And I was like, I'm honest. The ex was just saying things and he was lying. I didn't want to be with him. I wanted to be with you. But everything became so overwhelming. So I decided that, you know what, this is stressing me out. I shouldn't be with anyone. And he just didn't understand. And then he's like, fine. And then he was like, meet me up. I'm in London. I'm passing by.
Yeah.
Meet me up. And then we just need to talk.
Mm-hmm. And
then he says, I really like you. And I'm hoping if you're single, we could talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking, this is years down the line. I'm in a different place altogether in my life. And I'm not going to be able to date him. But I couldn't tell him that. So the day we were supposed to meet, I called him in the morning and I said to him, I've got to go to work. I can't meet you anymore. And he was like, if I don't see you today, I'm never going to see you again because I'm crossing over. And I was like, well, okay. And that was it. We crossed over and I've never seen him ever since.
Man.
Yeah.
That is something else.
Yeah.
I feel like you had the perfect opportunity to just come clean. This is somebody who doesn't hate you. This is someone who still has love for you. This was the opportunity for you to be at peace with this. And you let it go. I mean, I have to ask you this question. How do you feel about that situation today?
Oh, to be honest, I never gave. I think those things that you forget about in life.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about it, and I said it didn't really matter until when we're talking about it now. He's now married. I think he's happily married, and he's got a family.
Why do you think he's happily married?
No, I'm sure he is. He seems to be doing really well.
How sure can you be, given that the last person he ever really wanted to talk to and get an answer from was you?
Because I think this is like more than 7 years down the line. And I think, whether there still needs to be a discussion, I don't know, but I think that's gotten over and he's moved on. It's just one of those where I think sometimes in life as humans we've got to let something go. Sometimes we're not going to get all the answers, but
as humans we have to deal with this thing called closure, right? It's closure because it gives finality and totality to situations, places, times, events, and things. In the absence of closure, people could be empty for as long as they're alive because they don't understand why something happened. And I can say this because I've had situations where I've had no closure and they've bothered me for the longest of time. But then at the point where I do get closure, that's it. It literally disappears. So I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for Titch, but it sounds to me like, maybe he just decided, look, let me just move on. I'm never going to get closure for this. But he will always have that hanging over his head. And I guess now I understand why he brought out the two important lessons about respect, because if you had respect for him, you'd have respected his emotions and how he felt. And if you had been honest about stuff, I don't know, you guys might have been in a different position altogether.
Yeah, we probably definitely would have.
It doesn't sound to me like you are with the ex anymore.
No.
No? Okay, I'm not even going to go into that one. That's going to be another episode. But
no, that's another episode altogether.
As we wrap this one up, I've got an important question.
Yeah.
If you had another opportunity to say something to Titch today, would you finally be honest and open with him?
Yeah. Okay. I'm today, like you're saying, the closure bit, like I think one on my end, to be truthful, the closure bit for me would be that I hurt a friend and I lost a friend. And if I get a chance to apologize, I think I need to. And I think I need it not just for him, but also for me. Because out of that situation, it changed my whole outlook of relationships. And I promise I'll never treat anyone like that again.
Yeah.
So having the chance to speak to him and given a chance to apologize, I would definitely go for it. And I think now it's beyond thinking about the part of being proud or what I'll lose in this. We've already lost the friendship that was good.
Yeah.
So I really have nothing to lose except to just say, look, I'm really, really sorry. And I should have never, ever disrespected him like that.
So how about you make that chance come to life? Why don't you put it on yourself? Why don't you initiate it?
Yeah, you see, I would love to do that. I think...
sounds like there's a button there somewhere.
No, I'll tell you what the but is. The but is I have a rule of thumb when it comes to married men, whether my friends or not. I want to be careful with how I communicate with married men.
Right, gotcha.
So I still respect that he's married now.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I think I'm willing to have a look and see how I can approach it without
stirring the waters.
Yes, because I want to respect that he's a married man, and yeah.
Well, I do have to say, I did not expect this. I think I've only had just one other episode where somebody openly admitted that they were in the wrong. And I must say, it is refreshing because we're very quick to point fingers at people and say, he did this, she did that, without having that opportunity to look introspectively at ourselves. And so for those who are listening to this particular lockdown edition and this episode, we've learned that whenever you are in a relationship, be sure to respect someone, because that respect that you give could have an impact on their emotional understanding, their emotional stability, and their closure and their ability to move on. And on top of that, above everything else, be honest from the onset, because that could save a lot of admin issues like we saw, and would also avoid trouble like two hearts possibly breaking. You've been listening to The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and we will catch you in the next lockdown edition next week. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over. Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a fire.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.